Hi, my name is Ian. I'm a board member for EPIIC Startup. It's a nonprofit locally here in Colorado Springs that focuses on fostering and cultivating the entrepreneurial ecosystem. And a year ago, we actually set out on a brand new project to quantify the entrepreneurial community here in town. And so what we did was, and the raw data and the full report is at this URL here, cosentrepreneurs.com/data, but you don't need to take a photo of this or scribble it down. We have pieces of paper over at our table right over here that you can grab before you leave for the evening to get it. I highly suggest that you do that. But we wanted to do three specific things. We wanted to create a statistical baseline. We wanted to figure out exactly what entrepreneurs in Colorado Springs wanted. And maybe most importantly, we wanted to start a conversation with the stakeholders here in Colorado Springs, because this is where we live. So we used a multitude of data sources. The first one that we used was a survey that was conducted by the Colorado Economic Development Center. It's a startup value survey. We also created a custom one here focused specifically in Colorado Springs. And then we used the two largest public data sources on startups, Crunchbase and AngelList. So who is this entrepreneur? Well, they're 33 years old. 26% of the time, they only have the X chromosome. And the most compelling thing is that 78% of them have been living in Colorado Springs for more than 5 years. So that means the standard entrepreneur in Colorado Springs is very invested in their community. They're predominantly working from home. Right now, only 15% of them are working from co-working locations. But we actually think that that number is going to go up as fantastic places like Epicentral Co-working and the Catalyst campus come online, and we see them foster the community. But our entrepreneurs lack a lot of experience in running startups. In fact, only 34% of them have ever run 2 or 3. 25%, a huge percentage of them have only ever run one startup. That means they're doing their very first startup right this moment, okay? So, but what that also means, though, that most of our entrepreneurs have not experienced a successful exit yet. Only 35% of them have ever experienced 1 or 2, and over 56% of them have never experienced a successful exit ever. And remember, 25% of them are working on their very first one right now. So AngelList and Crunchbase actually state that there are about 80 startups in Colorado Springs. So there's a lot of entrepreneurs, but there's 80 startups in Colorado Springs. So what does that really mean? Because 80 sounds actually like a lot. Do you know all 80 of them? I mean, most of us don't really, but what we should do is compare them per capita to the other cities in the state. And what we see is we're about halfway to what they're experiencing in Fort Collins right now, but we're well behind the established entrepreneurial ecosystems of Denver and Boulder. But that's okay, because these cities all have different populations. So what we should really do is compare ourselves to cities that have similar populations than we do. And what we find is that Colorado Springs is right smack dab in the middle. We are on par with cities like Kansas City and New Orleans, Omaha, and Tulsa. Our startups per capita are equal to those places. And the entrepreneurs that are working at those startups are raising about $561,000 on average for their startups. And at first we thought that number seemed a little high, because we actually have some startups here in Colorado Springs that have raised an incredible amount of money. So when we did our custom survey, we actually asked the entrepreneurs to tell us exactly how much they raised. And unfortunately, we found this compelling statistic that 84% of them have raised less than $50,000 to launch their business. That means that only 6% of them have raised more than $750,000 to start their business. So when we compare ourselves to the other major ecosystems in in Colorado, you realize that we're falling well behind the cities in the state. But that's okay. Remember earlier we talked about the per capita thing. We should only compare ourselves to cities that have similar populations. And when we do, what we discover is that we're falling well short of the norm. And that's okay, because, well, we wish that it wasn't, right? But obviously, we will raise more money. Startups will raise more money when there are more fundable companies in Colorado Springs. So we also ask them what events they're going to. This is where entrepreneurs are going to collaborate, to network. They're going to places like 1 Million Cups and Entrepreneurs Evening, Startup Weekend and New Tech, and Startup Week. 56% went to Startup Week, and the very first one was last year. The next one is in October, and I highly encourage you to go. But we asked the entrepreneurs what were their main issues. 71% of the entrepreneurs stated that a lack of culture of innovation, a lack of quality mentorship, and a lack of investment capital is what their top issues were. And when measured across the state, Colorado Springs entrepreneurs stated that government-related costs, access to capital, and availability of talent were issues that they were dealing with. Now, the Kauffman Foundation states that there are 5 fundamental things that need to exist in order to have a thriving entrepreneurial ecosystem. They're talent, density, culture, capital, and regulatory environments. And what we've seen here is that our entrepreneurs are stating that their biggest issues are these ingredients here that are necessary to have a successful entrepreneurial ecosystem. So I implore you, please, go download the raw data, go read this report, and let's work together to help the entrepreneurs in Colorado Springs that are so young, that are growing so fast, make our future that much better. Thank you.